This book begins with us seeing 4 people who are being registered, or they are being checked in at a certain hotel in Banjul, who are very great people, but each of them does not know the other. So the first person that we start with is Professor Kimani. Professor Kimani registers himself as a professor in the Institute of Development Studies at the University of Nairobi, Kenya. But we can see that he is allocated at the 4th floor of the hotel in the East Wing. The second person to be signed in is Ngobile Melusi. He is a citizen and a comrade from Zimbabwe. He writes on his blank card that his occupation is not applicable, and he is assigned or signed in on the 5th floor of the hotel on the South Wing. These are not the exact people, but they can represent, okay? So the third person to be signed in is Chineke Chiamaka. Chineke Chiamaka is a pastor in Lagos, Nigeria, and he is signed in the hotel on the 6th floor of the West Wing. Yeah. The name of the last person is not mentioned, but definitely, finally, you are going to know his name. So, his name is Saif Tahir. He is an engineer formerly employed by the Ministry of Defense in Tripoli, Libya, and he is signed in at a room on the 3rd floor of the North Wing, just in that hotel in Banjul. This person was to represent our Professor Kimani. So, later in this book, we see that he is in a hotel, but he's wondering how comes evening has come so fast. But he receives a call from a Nigerian, and this Nigerian is calling him from the company that had sent him to Banjul, which is Agda. Agda as in the same way I'm saying it, but fully it represents the Agency for Governance and Development in Africa. So, after he informs Professor Kimani who sent him, this Nigerian, he assures him of his success in his mission in Banjul, in that he would be his guide. But Professor Kimani is not talking as much. He's not responding or protesting to what this Nigerian man is saying. But finally, they continue speaking, but we can see that this Nigerian is using too much grammar until Professor Kimani gives him a name of the educated Nigerian. Now, this Nigerian asked him if he received a briefcase which he had delivered to his hotel room. But now, Professor Kimani cannot open this briefcase. Why? Because it had been locked. So, he tells this Nigerian, I can't open it though. Did you scramble its lock perhaps? So this Nigerian tells him, open it using these codes, 1124. That was its combination lock. So let's continue. There was some demands which were in that briefcase which Professor Kimani was to fulfill. But he did not respond to this Nigerian of the time that he would use to fulfill those demands. Yeah. So, Professor Kimani was just interested in knowing the name of this Nigerian, but he did not tell him. He told him, oh, okay. Professor Kimani asked this question, haven't you forgotten something? The Nigerian responded, me, forget? Then Professor Kimani asked him, I asked for your name, who are you? But the Nigerian responded, oh, that, let's just say I'm your guide. Then this Nigerian sent to the other 3 people who had attended the hotel summit the same message. Those were Comrade Melusi, Pastor Chiamaka and later Engineer Tahir and told them about the four combination keys, which were 1, 1, 2, 4. Now let's get to the other part of the story. We had not known the name of the last person, the last guest. His name is Dr. Afolabi. He had studied in he had studied in Harvard University and he in USA, and he was the author of the book named Failure of States. He had attended this summit as one of the person who has written that as the author of that book, because at least he had some clues of why the states of the states fail. Dr. Afolabi is called by a certain lady behind him. That lady's name is Fiona Mackenzie, who explained to him that he was adopted by Ian and Elspeth. That's where his name Mackenzie came from. So, Fiona Mackenzie, or Miss Mackenzie, is a reporter of the Gambian news, and he just came to collect some news from these people who had attended the summit to at least get to know their views, or maybe what they were to discuss about, or their expectations in that named summit, which was entitled Way Omega. We get to see that this discussion or this interview does not end well, because Dr. Falabi is supporting his side that states have failed. But now Miss Mackenzie just wants to know his expectations of the summit and why he is supporting that states have failed. So that's when Mackenzie is called. Miss Mackenzie is called by her boss, and she starts packing so that he could leave. She could leave. And then finally, that story ends by Dr. Falabi telling Miss Mackenzie that I suggest that you just go read my book, not just its cover. He stood up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I too must be off. Have a good day. So this is the book Failures of States. That's how it looks. Failure of States. Yeah. Now, there was one problem in that hotel. Or maybe not a problem with the hotel, but a problem with the arrangement of the hotel. So they were wondering, how are we going to arrange to make sure that we equalize these people, in that the people who can be able to understand each other are together, or maybe something like that. So they had a very, very big job, and that is what is explained in page 10 about how they were going to like make sure that these people are comfortable, make sure that they have enough security, make sure that the summit goes on well, and that was their main agenda. So we get to see that they were wondering how they were going to arrange these dining areas, how they would make everybody comfortable. Yeah, started wondering if they should arrange as the UN, which is the United Nations, where they are arranged with alphabetic orders, like A to be in front and Z to be at the back. So the policemen would have a very, very tough job, because they decided that they are all going to be allocated, or they are all going to be accommodated at the Pinnacle Hotel in Banjul, where they would be guarded by these policemen. That meant that on the roads or along the roads, there would be so many soldiers, or there would be so many security guards, there would be so many checkpoints, and just all that. They only wanted them to be comfortable. Yeah, this is the UN. That is how they are arranged, and that is what Gambians wanted to use, or that was their plan. This was the hotel, the Pinnacle Hotel, where they would be accommodated during that summit. Yeah, and this chapter ends. This chapter ends where they finally arrange everything in their order, where each delegation is given 4 rooms, and it ends.